Hi, everyone, and welcome to this community conversation. We are really excited to partner with First Book. They are a terrific organisation that provides books and resources for kids in vulnerable communities. Just a bit of housekeeping: when you signed up for this programme, you agreed to a code of conduct. We expect respect for the presenter and each other. So as you know, all those who are registered will be receiving information about a discount and free resources that First Book is offering, which is wonderful. I think that's it. Let's go over to Daniel. Thanks, Daniel.
Great, thanks, Helen. And thanks everyone for joining today. I'm really excited to be presenting to NASW New Jersey and Delaware. As a New Jersey native, it really means a lot to me to be speaking to my fellow social workers in New Jersey. I'm a Rutgers School of Social Work graduate. So if there's any Rutgers alumni on here, I'd love to hear that in the chat. And let me just pull up my email here, just so everyone has it if you want to take it down. We'll also share these slides at the end of the presentation, but feel free to reach out to me after today with any questions that you might have. Okay, so just real quick, I will go over today's agenda. And actually, before I go over the agenda, just to touch base on what Helen said about the free resources that we'll be offering for everyone who's attended. After the webinar, within the next few days, you'll receive information about a $25 gift credit to the First Book Marketplace to purchase any of the resources that we make available there. And I'll be talking about those resources today, so you'll have an idea of all the types of resources that you'll be able to access. But just to thank you and get you started using First Book, we would love to offer that credit for you and the kids and families that you're serving. So today's agenda, I'll start with an overview of First Book and who we are. I'll talk a little bit about the First Book Marketplace, which is our mechanism that we use to get resources out to providers and into communities. Then I'll talk more specifically about some of the free resources that First Book has to support mental health, SEL, and cultural awareness. I'll move on to talk about First Book's partnership opportunities, and then we'll have time for questions and conversation at the end. If you do have questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to type those into the chat, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation or maybe during the presentation, depending on the question itself. Okay, so First Book was co-founded in 1992 by our current CEO, Kyle Zimmer. And it was initially started as a way to address the reality that many kids are growing up without any access to books, both in their homes and in their communities. So in fact, some studies show that in the poorest communities across the country, there's only one book for every 400 kids. So First Book really got started as a way to tackle that issue, but since its inception, First Book has also placed educational equity at the core of our work and mission. We know that access to quality education is not equal, with huge disparities between the resources available to the kids growing up in poverty and their more affluent peers. And while focused on literacy, since its inception, First Book has always been committed to educational equity, and we aim to provide equal access to quality education by making books and other resources available to classrooms and programs serving kids in need from birth to age 18, and to remove the barriers that kids face in receiving a quality education. So this next slide highlights the growing need to level the playing field by working to get more resources to the kids that need them most. It's probably no surprise to all of you on here today that poverty continues to rise in this country, with record numbers of kids growing up in low-income households, while at the same time underfunding and budget cuts to public education continue to strain our schools, our programs, and impact the ability of educators and providers to do their jobs by limiting the number of resources available for students both in and out of the classroom. And without access to the tools they need to succeed, millions of our kids are being left behind and fall prey to getting trapped into a cycle of poverty. So fortunately, First Book and our partners are working to address this need and close the resource gap so that every child has a chance to receive a high quality education. And we're proud to partner with local, state, and national organizations committed to educational equity for all children. This slide is just a tiny snapshot of some of the great organizations that we've been privileged to support. And thanks to our collaborations with partner organizations, publishing partners, and thought leaders in this space, First Book is honored to receive recognition for our efforts over the past 30 years. And during our 30 years, we've distributed over 200 million books and resources to underserved communities. And we reach about 5 million kids each year through our network of educators and providers. And we believe that we reach about 1 in 3 schools and programs serving kids in need. And we're really proud of that reach, but what that tells us is that we aren't reaching 2/3 of the eligible kids and programs that really need our resources. So it's conversations like this one, engagement with folks like you, that really help us reach more providers and children every week. So how do we work? First Book applies proven strategies of the private sector to fuel our work as a nonprofit with growing ecosystems of models that work both individually and together to create impact. The First Book network is the cornerstone of everything that we do. Educators in Title I schools or programs in which 7 of 10 children reached are in need of financial or other reasons can sign up for First Book for free. This network is North America's largest group of educators serving kids in need. We have more than 525,000 professionals in our network, and we're growing by nearly 700 members each week. We really try to harness the voice of our network to guide us in the work that we do. So we conduct original research that amplifies the voice of our network and our members and identifies their needs. We engage field experts to create tools and resources to address those needs, and we curate culturally relevant educational resources that resonate with our membership and the diverse children that they serve. And this lets us leverage the aggregated buying power of everybody to drive costs down and make resources affordable. And this also drives our continual innovation that helps us elevate our impact with a systems-based changing approach. So Helen, at this point, I'd like to pull up our first poll question and just ask the members of the audience what setting that they're currently working in right now.
Oh, yeah, so if you can, there should be a poll that's shown up on your screen. What type of setting are you working in right now?
Yeah, so we have school listed, human service organization, a nonprofit organization, private practice, and other. And for those working in other, we would love to hear where that is. So if you could type into the chat if you're working outside of these different settings that I have listed here.
Can you see the poll, Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, so it looks like the majority of folks are working in schools, which is great. It's totally relevant to the work that First Book is doing, and nonprofit organizations also is high on the list. I'm seeing a lot of other, so maybe if folks can type into the chat where that is.
Newark Board of Education.
Oh, well, great. Great,
So
yeah.
for government.
Excellent. So you can see here that there are lots of different sectors and settings that First Book works with. And everyone listed here today that people have cited in the poll and listed in other are groups that we've worked with. We work with state departments of education, local departments of education, government entities as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of our work with government entities a little bit later in the presentation. But First Book's, our real power as a social enterprise centers on our ability to aggregate the collective strength of these different sectors and previously fragmented groups. And our network consists exclusively of providers, educators, and program staff, all working in under-resourced communities and serving kids in need. So signing up for First Book is free. And once providers or educators have self-validated that they're eligible to become a member of the network, they're instantly connected to First Book's ongoing supply of free and low-cost resources. And in sourcing books and other resources, First Book relies heavily on the feedback loop that we generate with members in our network. Again, you can see here that we do work with a wide range of program types. And this helps us really keep our ear to the ground and listen to the needs of our members so that we can find out what resources they need the most and go out and source them so that we can make them available either for free or at the lowest possible cost. Okay, so what exactly is the process for getting connected to our resources? It's simple. There's an online registration process that's completely free to fill out, and it's free to join the First Book network. It takes about 10 minutes to go through the form, and we ask for simple information like the number of kids that you serve, the languages spoken, the ages of the children that you're serving. And then we ask providers to self-verify their eligibility. That can be validated by a number of indicator options. So things like census poverty data for the community that you're working in, free and reduced price lunch data, WIC eligibility, all indicators that are probably familiar to most folks on here today. And then once you're registered, you're instantly connected to the First Book network and able to use the marketplace to access free and reduced price resources. Okay, so I'll just stop for another poll real quick. Helen, if you could pull up the second and the third poll, if that's possible.
Oh, it looks like some people have already answered.
Okay.
To number 3. Excellent. You see, social workers are prepared. So question 2 is, do you use books in your practice?
And Helen, I'm not seeing the poll show up, so if you can let me know what the results are, that'd be great.
Yeah, we've got about 80% that say yes, they do use books, and then 20% that says no. Some occupations and places where people work come up in the chat when you was talking, and people work for city government that are on the webinar, so I'm sure that's what accounts for it. Then question 3. If you use books in your practice, what topics are themes that you focus on? So the top answer is books that promote social emotional skills. Next is books to support grief and loss, very relevant at this time. Books that focus on character development. Books that reflect diversity and inclusivity, books that focus on social justice, and 5 people said other. So do you want to explore that, Daniel?
Yeah, folks can just type the other in the chat. And while folks are doing that, I'll move on for now, but it's great to hear that feedback. And I'll talk more about the books that we have to cover all of these topics as we move along in this presentation. But first, I'll just want to give an overview of the First Book Marketplace and what it is. So the marketplace is a nonprofit e-commerce site that provides a wide range of brand new resources, including curated titles at an average cost of $3.50 for a paperback including shipping and handling. Our average cost per book is about 50 to 90% off the standard retail price. So we really try to make books as affordable as possible so that you can get them to the kids that you serve. And the marketplace was developed over 10 years ago in response to member feedback, and it's become our strongest lever for systemic change because we've realized that a technology and market-driven approach is perhaps the most scalable way to moving the needle forward on educational equity. The First Book National Book Bank is also part of the marketplace, and it's another important access point for programs, schools, and districts looking to secure large volumes of books in an effort to scale a program or build school-wide libraries. The First Book National Book Bank is a central clearinghouse for donations of excess inventory from publishers. And First Book works with over 90 different imprints, so most of the major publishers out there, and they're donating a lot of their excess inventory, or sometimes they'll change a new cover if they get a new edition of a book, and they're often donating brand new high quality books to First Book that we are able to make available to our members for an average of 60 cents per book, which just covers the cost of shipping and handling. And these books are great for things like incentives for family engagement, free book fairs, or to send home as summer or holiday reading materials. Moments when multiple children are receiving books and title variety is not that essential. So the biggest difference between the books on the what we call sometimes the regular section of the marketplace is that those books are really curated with a lens towards diversity and inclusion and different categories that we'll talk about. Whereas the book bank, because it relies on donations from publishers, is not curated, so you're not going to find as diverse of a selection within the book bank. So one unique feature of the First Book Marketplace that I'll point out are easy button sections that make it simple to search for books and resources by category and by filtering for things like age range, price, and language. And the first section that I'll highlight is First Book Stories for All project. The Stories for All project is First Book's trademark commitment to expanding access to diverse and inclusive titles, authors, and illustrators. It's also the largest worldwide collection of inclusive content curated exclusively for kids in need. And to date, the Stories for All project makes up more than a third of the books available on the First Book Marketplace. And so that's about 2,000 books total, or titles total. And research shows that kids are more likely to read if they can see themselves and their experiences reflected in the stories made available to them. So this is why First Book strives to provide great books that are really representative of the diverse populations that we serve. You can see here that some of the categories featured in the Stories for All collection offer an array of books and characters and cultures, highlighting stories from African American, Latinx, Native American, LGBTQ+, immigrant and refugee communities, amongst others. Next, we know that systemic inequalities have long taken a toll on the social and emotional well-being of our kids, a problem that's only been further exacerbated by the ongoing pandemic. To that end, First Book also offers a variety of books and resource categories to support healthy social and emotional development. Aside from resources to promote interpersonal relationships and emotional regulation, some of the books and resources available cover topics like creating welcoming schools, bullying, and self-empowerment. And this next slide shows how books in the social and emotional learning category are further broken down into sections to promote the development of different skills and traits, including empathy, compassion, resilience, self-esteem, and self-control, amongst others. And to go along with some of the titles on the SEL section, First Book also offers free downloadable reading guides developed in collaboration with the Collaborative for Social and Emotional Learning. Most people know them as CASEL. And these guides can be used by providers, educators, and caregivers to develop discussions and strengthen the development of SEL skills with their clients, students, and kids. So another section of the marketplace that I'll highlight is our activism and civic engagement section. And as you all know, the NASW Code of Ethics calls on social workers to challenge social injustice. And there are many ways that this principle can be put into practice. And in addition to working to create a more equitable distribution of resources, First Book strives to help our members inspire the next generation of activists to promote social justice and become change makers. This section features books that will help inspire young people to transform their communities and stand up for their rights. And aside from books, the First Book Marketplace also offers a large variety of other essential items that all kids need. So items like personal hygiene products, clothing, school supplies, hands-on learning activities, and more. And before moving on to talk about some of these resources, let's just take another moment for our last poll to see which resources are most likely, that you're most likely to use in working with your clients. Helen, if you could pull up poll number 4, if it hasn't already come up.
Yep, hopefully everyone can see it. Question is, in addition to books, which resources are you most likely to use in working with your clients?
So we've listed games and activities, art supplies, adaptive learning supplies, so things like fidgets and sensory materials, basic needs items like clothes and hygiene products. And then again, we have another other category. And if there's resources that you use that aren't listed, we'd love to hear those in the chat. Helen, are you able to see the results?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see, Daniel, where people are typing what other resources that they use working with their clients. But Karen gives a great shout out to First Book, saying that it's been an awesome partner and portal in her literacy programs. So thanks, Karen.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
All right, I guess people are being shy. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes for people to in.
So while folks are typing and thinking about what resources they might use, move on here and talk a little bit about our basic needs items section. So across a variety of settings, basic needs items are, obviously crucial resources for supporting kids and families in need. And we know that kids face huge obstacles in going to school when they don't have things like winter coats, socks, hygiene products, and things like that at home. So this is why First Book makes available many of these essential items, including diapers, face masks, menstrual care products, and others on the marketplace. In Delaware, in particular, we've partnered with the Lieutenant Governor's Office and the Department of Education to build and stock care closets in 42 of the highest need schools across the state, with many school-based social workers serving as coordinators for their school's closet. And this is a model that we would love to see adopted in other states and settings. And I'll talk a little more later about partnership opportunities with First Book, but just wanted to highlight that really important partnership that we have with the Governor's Office and the Department of Education in Delaware. So First Book also offers a variety of games and activities and inclusive learning resources that can help improve cognitive functioning, motor skills, emotional regulation, and socialization. Many of these resources can be used to support play or art therapy, and can be used to help channel. Help channel the nervous energy of clients with diagnoses like ADHD, helping to improve their concentration and focus. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit to talk about some of the free resources that First Book has developed over the years to help address issues like trauma, grief and loss, SEL, and cultural awareness. And these resources were co-developed with leading experts based on feedback we've received from surveys and focus groups of our members that have made it clear that aside from a lack of resources, meeting the mental and emotional health needs of students are amongst the biggest challenges facing educators today. And I know that all of you here are likely to be experts on many of these topics, but since you can't be everywhere all the time as much as people would really like you to be, We hope that you can take advantage of these resources by sharing them with the educators and support staff in your networks, and to help them better understand and address these issues when they encounter them in the kids and students that they work with. So the first resource that I'll highlight is the Trauma Toolkit. This toolkit was created by First Book and funded by the Maryland State Education Association, and is designed to provide an overview of the causes and symptoms of trauma, offer insight into frequently asked questions, and provide actionable steps that educators and caring adults can take to support students' learning and development. Through this toolkit, educators can learn about the most common sources of childhood trauma, learn how trauma affects learning, how it manifests itself in students, and receive tools and techniques to help students manage their social and emotional behavior, as well as learn how to gain community support and learn about the importance of self-care and how to handle compassion fatigue. To date, the Trauma Toolkit has been First Book's most popular resource, downloaded over 25,000 times. This really speaks to the huge need out there to address this really critical issue. So books can serve as tools that help kids process their grief and loss, and help students feel less alone by showing characters who have experienced something similar. Depending on the content, they can also help students understand complex feelings, explain the facts and permanence of death, or even help students connect with the memories of their deceased loved ones. In partnership with the New York Life Foundation, First Book has developed a guide for educators to use books to support students through grief, loss, and healing. Sadly, with the tragic loss of lives across the country due to the COVID-19 epidemic, this guide has become more relevant than ever. And this resource offers guidance on how to use books with children experiencing grief and loss, as well as provides suggestions of what to look for when choosing books to use with children in elementary, middle, and high school, and includes reflection questions that may be useful in speaking with them. And in addition to the guide, First Book has created a section on the marketplace to make it easy to find and shop for books that help address grief and loss and healing. This section includes titles that are mentioned in the guide, as well as additional titles that help address these topics. The next resource that I'll highlight is Promoting Respect and Empathy, a toolkit for educators of all grades. Designed to help educators promote cultural competence and address bias and equity within their schools and programs, this toolkit is a collection of activities, tips, book recommendations, and more gathered from First Book members across the country. All the content comes from educators serving kids in need in a variety of settings, including cities, rural communities, suburban towns, and even Native American reservations. These activities show how fun, imaginative, and meaningful interactions can help students learn and practice building respect and empathy. Finally, the last resource that I want to call attention to today is a downloadable diversity-themed calendar that highlights month-long observances, religious holidays, dates of cultural and historical significance. It presents an easy way for social workers to support the growth of their cultural awareness and social diversity skills. And just to say, all of those resources are available to be downloaded directly on the First Book Marketplace. So you could even go there today and start accessing those resources and downloading them and sharing them with anyone in your network. And before we move on to our open period for questions and conversations, I just want to take a minute or two to note some of the ways that First Book can partner with organizations on a larger scale beyond the First Book Marketplace. So our nonprofit partnerships come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, and First Book is committed to thinking creatively together to customize options that ensure our partners' goals are being met and that the children and families they serve are at the forefront of solutions. This slide demonstrates just a small sampling of the kinds of events and activities that First Book works with our partners to support. I previously noted the First Book statewide partnership with Delaware. Some of the other large-scale projects that we work on include supplying books and resources for feeding sites, shelters, and community programs. We can also work with partners to customize orders, manage logistics, and even provide gift certificates to the First Book Marketplace to program staff. So I'll be happy to answer any questions about partnerships that you have today. And we'll also provide a contact information for folks to reach out after today's webinar for anyone who would like to explore additional partnership opportunities with First Book. And as we transition over to questions, I'll just leave this slide up for a second as a reminder of where to go to register for First Book. And we would be thrilled if you shared First Book as a resource with any of your colleagues who serve kids in need. We'll also be sharing today's slides and additional materials about First Book along with the recording, as well as further information about the credit for the First Book Marketplace that you'll all receive for attending today.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Daniel. Really appreciate that. We've got a couple of questions. Are these resources available in other languages as well, such as Spanish?
Yeah, so we do have a pretty good selection of Spanish and bilingual titles, as well as several other languages. I think we have some books in French, and I'm forgetting all the different languages off the top of my head, but definitely Spanish and French, we have books available. And one of the things that is possible with First Book in working through a partnership is to place orders for books directly with publishers that we might not have available on the marketplace. So if you're looking for specific titles available in other languages, there are some limitations. A special order does have to be for a certain number of books. So there is a threshold. But as long as a book is in print and it's available in that language, First Book can often source it directly from the publisher.
Brilliant, brilliant. Shelley asked, are the materials written for teachers or are there materials for school social workers who may already have training in these issues?
Great question. Yeah, so the materials are primarily written with a lens towards educators and program staff to make some of the best in-class research that's out there available in really digestible bite-sized chunks. So it's geared really more to create easy button solutions for folks that are really overwhelmed with time and don't have a chance to dive deeply into the research, but just to get them to be able to apply, some of those best practices in their classroom or in their programs. So, for social workers that are well-versed in trauma, you might find some useful tidbits in our trauma toolkit, but it's not directly, trying to inform you of the latest research in trauma.
Gotcha. Karen, not to put you on the spot, but you seem to have experience with First Book. Love for you to come on camera and mic and talk about your experience. She also mentions that one of the tools that you had up on screen debunks the fear of critical race theory. So are you there, Karen?
Yes, I am.
Great.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And yes, I am one of your most faithful and most vigorous cheerleaders. And I've also had the honor of having two of the students that have gone through my program, Nikinje Fagan and Darla Bunting now Liggins, actually be on the board of directors for First Book. So we have a long relationship with utilizing your services. We just recently facilitated a collaborative with TD Bank and First Book to actually do a read along within the school district that I collaborate with. So for everyone that is on, I would tell you that the resources that First Book makes accessible are phenomenal. The parental handouts that you can download to complement any type of parental engagement activity or topic are phenomenal. The resources that you can download for your staff are phenomenal, but more importantly, the ability to leverage resources that are so phenomenal, and I just keep using that word, are just endless. They are simply endless. And I encourage you to share First Book as a resource to help individuals leverage resources specific to literacy, specific to individuals that have low interest in reading. So again, they talked about being able to see themselves in books. No matter who it is, they will be able to see themselves in books. And one of the things that we like doing with we do fireside readings with little fake fires that I ordered from Fun Express and or Oriental Trading if you don't have a corporate account. And we actually do read arounds where we get the books and the parents that may also have low literacy rates, and they simply all read the same book at the same time, so it's non-threatening. So with the parental engagement piece and making sure that they're able to develop libraries at home, a number of the books that you will find on First Book Marketplace are actually bilingual. So you're able to make sure that one, the child becomes the teacher because the child is learning English in the school, and then they're co-reading the books. So we do a lot of multi-generational teaching with those resources. So again, I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Thank you so much, Karen. That's so great to hear. I want everyone to know that Karen was not paid to be here today.
No, I was not paid. However, I do get paid with the gratification and the ability to leverage limited resources to be able to support the families that depend on the services that we provide. And anyone that's on this, they will get paid also because they will see that the parents and the children are so engaged when they are able to actually use those resources. But more importantly, we holistically move them towards being more self-sufficient. So whether you're scaffolding, increasing executive function, building autonomy support, whatever it is that you're trying to do, the First Book Marketplace has a tool that can support you in that.
Thanks, Karen. That's, that echoes a lot of the feedback that we often hear from our members. And a lot of folks just, it's always pulls on the heartstrings just to hear how useful and helpful our resources are to the work that they're doing, which really, helps us advance our mission. And it's at the core of what we do. We want to be there for our members and make resources available and make sure that we're getting them the resources that they need for the kids that they're serving. And one thing I'll also mention as a benefit for signing up to First Book is, not only are you able to download some of these free resources and get access to low cost resources, but we often have funded opportunities that come through from our sponsors. And what that looks like, for example, Pizza Hut, they're a major sponsor of First Book. They'll say, hey, we want to make a gift credit or a promotional code available to members of the First Book network. It's often for something like $25. I've seen it go all the way up to $150. And we'll send out an email. So anyone who's registered in the First Book network will have that opportunity for that funding. And things like that come up all the time, and different opportunities, grant opportunities. We never know what it's going to be, but something's always happening. And so it really is beneficial to just get signed up for the First Book network. Like I said, it's free. And to get your colleagues to sign up too, so if you're working in an organization serving kids in need and you have 30 employees or 50 employees, they can all sign up. And when those funding opportunities come around, that's, 20 to 50 times that you can amplify that opportunity and get more resources for your communities.
Brilliant. And we'll be sending around how people can sign up, right, Daniel? That'll be in the materials.
Yeah, we will follow up with a copy of the slide deck and also a one-pager about how you can sign up directly that you can feel free to share with any of your colleagues or anyone in your network.
Excellent. And then also information about the discount, because we all love a bargain, don't we?
And just to say, it's even more than a discount. We'll be sending out free credits to the marketplace for everyone in attendance today.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Karen, for sharing. Sounds like you and Daniel could go on the road for a road show. We appreciate you coming on camera. Wanted to see if there are any other questions that people would like to ask. Well, we've got Daniel here.
With North District, but we work with a lot of in-school district and private providers. So is this, and it's like 60 something private providers. Me taking back this information, it might come out a little different. But if we invite you virtually, would you be able to do this presentation for private providers so they can have direct access to you or your website?
Yeah, absolutely. We welcome any, warm introductions, invitations to do presentations. Yeah, so we would love to. If you want to contact me, my email was on that first slide. But I'll also, let me move on to this last slide. There's another email here. It's not my direct email, but if you reach out, if anyone reaches out to partnerships@firstbook.org, it'll get to me or get filtered to the right person.
Great. Kia asks, are there any resources for the LGBTQT community, specifically for the elementary school level?
Yes, absolutely. We have a huge selection of books for the LGBTQ+ community that ranges in age from, I think, even preschool all the way up through high school. So we do have a large selection for that community.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, seems like there's something for everyone. I look forward to exploring the website. And Kendra, what I'll do is I'll include Daniel's email in the email that's sent out with all the resources. And like he says, it's on the slide deck too. So this has been absolutely wonderful. Really appreciate your time and energy. It's a terrific organization. Love the things that you're doing. Is there any more questions that we can ask? And it sounds like Daniel's available to come and talk to your groups. He loves to talk about the organization. So, please take him up on the offer that he has not made yet to come and talk to your group. So
yeah, I would love that. And thanks everyone for joining today and taking time out of your busy day. I know it can be stressful, especially this time of year. So really appreciate everyone making the effort to be here today, and even for those who couldn't make it and watch the recording, really appreciate it. And just encourage you all to sign up for First Book. It's free. It takes about 10 minutes. Share information with your colleagues. And when things like surveys and focus groups come out, once you're a member of First Book, definitely want to encourage everyone to participate in those, because that's how we really hear most of your feedback and find out what resources that you need, specifically as social workers, and allows us to go out and source different things. So if there's certain topics of books that you need, we'd love to hear that. If there's certain resources that you're using in therapy, we'd love to hear about those too.
terrific. Well, the thanks are coming through the chat, and I would like to thank you all for spending your time here today, and also to Daniel for your wonderful presentation. If there are any follow-up questions, you will have Daniel and also my email address within the next 24 hours. Thank you for the service you do to our children and to our communities. You are all essential workers, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.